Hello and welcome to AI and Flourishing, Principle 2, the unexpected joy of limits. This was a really fun, but very tough essay to write. I think whenever you write an essay that speaks about limits, about constraints, about boundaries, about frames, as opposed to the abundance of artificial intelligence and the limitlessness of that chatbot that looks at you expectantly, you need to try and be relatively tight with your argument and relatively tight with your language. And unfortunately, I got a bit carried away. So this essay is split in two. This is the first part of the unexpected joy of limits. I've tried to button it up and top and tail it as an essay. But also, I speak a lot about the importance of the frame. G.K. Chesterton talks about the most beautiful part of any painting is in the frame because it imposes limits. And obviously, one of the tricks of a nonfiction writer is to stick all of the other stuff that you really wanted to say but doesn't quite fit into the notes at the bottom. So anyone that wants to read all of the notes that give a little bit of explanation, maybe a bit of depth and a bit of justification to some of the stuff that I'm saying, go and take a look at the Substack. This was also really difficult to write because the cricket's on, and any self-respecting Brit would be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and keeping their eyes glued to a rather gloomy picture out in Australia. So I've had to try and show some much needed discipline to get this over the line. Finally, before we start the essay, this was a joy to write because of the amount of different and varied references that I could put in. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be able to put a reference to Ready, Steady, Cook, the British daytime TV show that ran in the 90s, alongside references to Buddhism and Stoicism and Christianity and philosophy and things like that. So it was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy listening to this as much as I enjoy writing it. Love to get your comments and queries. But in the meantime, on with the essay. AI and Flourishing. Principle 2, the unexpected joy of limits. South Korean philosopher Byung-Chul Han is not someone you would usually associate with human flourishing. Reading any one of his recent polemics against technology and capitalism is enough to make us wonder why we bother getting up in the morning. Han's critique of the modern technological industrial complex, best articulated in his 2010 work, The Burnout Society, is that our society is now burdened with what he calls an excess of positivity. This postmodern phenomenon is more subtle and more insidious than the excess of negativity that has caused so much harm in centuries past. According to Han, negativity is all about restriction. It is police states and detention centers, draconian rules and corporal punishment. It is Foucault's panopticon and the island prison of Alcatraz. A disciplined society is based on boundaries and consequences, whether it's a rap across the knuckles if we act up in class, or a fine for dropping chewing gum on a pavement. Negativity has been an enduring method of control for religions and governments, parents and corporations alike. According to Han, negative power's compelling modal verb is should. The grudging obligation to log in, show up, do the work, and toe the line. Conversely, positive power's modal verb is can. Excess positivity breaks down the boundaries of time and place. It blurs the lines between work and play. It creates a global 24-hour-a-day market for achievement. Everything becomes a stress-inducing means to achieving more. We have, according to Han, become entrepreneurs of ourselves. Achievement subjects desperately trying to cram it all in, becoming frenetically more productive, constantly comparing ourselves with others whilst aiming towards an infinite array of successes and goals located just beyond our grasp. This overexcited, overdriven achievement subject grinds itself down. If negativity produces madmen and criminals, according to Han, then achievement society creates depressives and losers. Artificial intelligence adds a powder keg to this raging wildfire. In its chatbot interface powered by incomprehensibly large language models, we see a technological symbol of excess positivity. When speaking to a chatbot, we feel a vertigo-inducing limitlessness, like peering over the edge of a bubbling volcano and witnessing hitherto unimaginable power. The sense that everything is possible can easily overwhelm us. We have, within our grasp, limitless knowledge, unbounded productivity, infinite use cases. We stare at our willing chatbots, worrying that we are only scratching the surface of their potential, concerned that we might be falling behind. The truth is, we don't know where to start. Create an image, write some poetry, do a little vibe coding, build an app. Surely there's more. So we start a conversation and receive instant affirmation, the currency of positive power, from our friendly chatbots. We go further, adrift in the infinity of knowledge graphs and parallel processes. Because, deep down, a small part of us wants someone to tell us what to do, to impose much needed boundaries. Like primary school children who benefit from the kindly authority of a teacher when trying to organize a football match in the playground, we get far more joy, satisfaction, and peace by knowing the terms of the game, its boundaries, its completion, and what success looks like. The business model of artificial intelligence and its associated contemporary technologies, like social media, is to hold our attention. Infinite possibilities, infinite scroll, nothing is ever complete. We can always do more. Unlike technologies and business models that have come before, artificial intelligence doesn't take evenings off. It doesn't observe the Sabbath. It never pauses for breath. So we spin around like whirling dervishes, a frenzied mass of energy and futility. Narrow is the path. In every world religion, we can find countless references to limits, not only within religion as a means of control and the justification of negative power, but also in the metaphors religious texts use for salvation and passage to an afterlife. The driving force of Buddhism is the control of excess positivity in pursuit of enlightenment. As part of the Noble Eightfold Path, a Buddhist must restrict their actions, sila, and their mind, samadhi, to reach the elimination of suffering, nirvana. In Zen meditation, practitioners attempt to achieve what Han calls pure negativity, the clearing of everything from one's mind, freeing oneself from rushing. In the ancient Sanskrit text, the Katha Upanishad, one of the foundational Shruti, divinely heard or revealed texts of Hinduism, and a cornerstone of the Vedanta school of philosophy, speaks of a path to salvation being difficult to achieve, like the razor's edge. As such, limitlessness and abundance are treated as dangerous enticements to be controlled and resisted in pursuit of virtue, salvation, and transcendence. In the Christian Bible, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than to enter the kingdom of heaven. In Matthew 7, the gate that is wide and broad is one that leads to destruction, but narrow is the gate that leads to life. Indeed, 3 of Thomas Aquinas' 7 deadly sins are the product of abundance: sloth, avarice, and gluttony. Islam treats extravagance as a sin. Eat, drink, and pray, but do not be extravagant. Commit israf. For the ancients, the path to virtue was equally narrow, with Stoic philosopher Seneca compelling us to embrace limitations. When writing to his friend Lucilius, Seneca advises him that when you are traveling on a road, there must be an end, but when astray, your wanderings are limitless. He goes on to argue that the only way to true virtue is to be aware of one's destination, making sure not to get distracted by the abundance of alternative paths. However, it was with the Stoics' natural torchbearer, Marcus Aurelius, that the adherence to limitation was codified. In Book 4 of Meditations, his private journal, Marcus Aurelius concludes that virtue is to be found fixed in a boundary. Necessity is the mother of invention. In one of Aesop's best-known fables, a crow with a perishing thirst sees a refreshing pitcher of water over there in the distance. Relieved, the crow flies over to the pitcher only to discover that, however hard he cranes his neck, dipping his beak as far as it would go, he cannot reach the restorative water below. Having exhausted all alternatives, the wily crow has a brainwave. Why not collect tiny pebbles, dropping them into the pitcher one by one until the water level rises and the crow is able to quench his thirst? There is something wonderful about the imposition of limits, artificial or by necessity. It is within such limits, for example, Aesop's crow, the limits are the body and the laws of physics, that we find intelligence and creativity. Limits are a challenge to be faced, a problem to be solved, an opportunity to use our creativity and our ingenuity. In the long-running British television show Ready Steady Cook, two contestants, the red tomatoes and the green peppers, were given a meager £5 to buy a range of often extremely random ingredients, setting the professional chefs the challenge of inventing a delicious dish within a 20-minute time frame. While the animated presenter Ainsley Harriott buzzed around, asking the chefs about their inventions and their methods. At the end of the show, the audience was asked to vote on whether the red tomatoes or the green peppers offered the more appealing culinary creation. Ready Steady Cook was loved by a nation of daytime television enthusiasts and ended up running for over 15 years with a staggering 1,888 episodes. Arguably, much of the appeal of any enduring reality television is in its imposition of limits. Be it house renovation or landscape gardening, the joy is in watching necessity serve as the mother of invention. It is in these limits, whether it's a strict budget or a bizarre list of ingredients, that we can see creativity and intelligence. Compare it to a newer class of reality television series, which provides us with a glimpse into limitlessness. These shows, which promise to sell Sunset, give us a behind-the-scenes look below deck, and convince us that these characters are indeed real housewives, serve more as gratuitous distraction. We don't feel nourished or enriched by binging these series. Rather, we spend our time seeking glimpses of Schadenfreude, often realizing that our more prosaic lives are, indeed, better. The beauty of a picture frame. British essayist G.K. Chesterton pithily observed that art consists of limitation. The most beautiful part of every picture is the frame. But like the manager of a football team lambasting officials and lamenting the bureaucratic rules of the game, we can often witness great artists enduring a love-hate relationship with their medium. Every artist wishes to break free from the constraints of the canvas. Authors and playwrights build entire careers off the inadequacy of language. Musicians embrace new technologies to expand the narrow realities of their craft. Postmodernists approach the reality of these constraints head-on, at the same time undermining, elevating, and ironizing their various artistic media. Despite frustration with the limiting boundaries of a frame, limitation also serves as a blacksmith's forge that shapes and molds great works of artistic creation. As the French artist Henri Matisse asserts, artistic energy and creativity is all the stronger for being constrained, controlled, and compressed. While Russian composer Igor Stravinsky goes further in a wonderful passage which is worth quoting in its entirety. My freedom thus consists in my moving about within the narrow frame that I have assigned myself for each one of my undertakings. I shall go even further. My freedom will be so much the greater and more meaningful the more narrowly I limit my field of action and the more I surround myself with obstacles. Whatever diminishes constraint diminishes strength. The more constraints one imposes, the more one frees oneself of the chains that shackle the spirit. Give a child a simple cardboard box and, unconstrained by the desire to better themselves, make the most of their time or prove their value, they will create whole worlds. The box becomes a fortress, protecting against your pesky sister, or a turbocharged racing car careening round hairpin bends. It is in constraint that we can liberate our imaginations. This unique human faculty births abundance from the boundaries of an empty canvas. It creates worlds from a blank page. A simple beat, tapped lazily against our legs, can transport us into a country that we've never visited before. The American poet Emily Dickinson beautifully illustrates this in her paean to the brain and its awesome power of imagination. The brain is wider than the sky. For, put them side by side, the other will contain, with ease and you beside. The brain is deeper than the sea. For, hold them, blue to blue, the other will absorb, as sponges, buckets do. The brain is just the weight of God. For, heft them, pound for pound, and they will differ, if they do, as syllable from sound. The problem, therefore, with artificial intelligence is that the canvas is removed from the frame. No longer do we wrestle with a blank sheet of paper, our brain creaking into life. Now, instead, we can refine prompts, typing in the first thing that comes into our heads, letting a machine do the work. The abundance, positivity, and representations of creativity make artificial intelligence chatbots different from any other creative tool. A chatbot is not like a paintbrush or a pen. As countless truly creative people will attest, ideas are cheap. It is in the white-knuckle creative process of iteration and refinement where true creativity is found. Artificial intelligence removes this fundamental element of creativity and true innovation, giving us the illusion that we are being creative without any of the nutritional benefits of sticking within the frame and putting in the work. The excess positivity of a chatbot, always compelling us to do more, keep going, and stay engaged, often inspires the opposite impulse to the creative discipline. In his 1914 book on the art of writing, the novelist Sir Arthur Quiller Couch implores us to take a blue pencil to our work before it goes to press. His mantra, echoed by authors past and present, murder your darlings. Steve Jobs lived this advice. His team at Apple spent 3 years designing the Apple mouse, debating whether to have 2 buttons or 1. They finally settled on 1. Echoing Leonardo da Vinci, Jobs asserted that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Jobs was maniacally focused on simplicity. As a for-profit company with plenty of competitors, Apple was constantly encouraged to branch out into any number of distracting pursuits. It took the bloody-minded fortitude of Jobs to keep it on the straight and narrow, not distracted by things that glisten and gleam. Conversely, with artificial intelligence, we have at our fingertips an abundance of things to attract and distract us. Referring to contemporary information systems, French sociologist Jean Baudrillard speaks of the obesity of all current systems. The large language models which power our friendly chatbots are, by design, obese. The gluttony of a technology which speaks of trillions of parameters, quadrillions of tokens, acres of data centers, rivers of cooling water, and terawatts of energy. These devouring technologies scour the digital and physical world, searching for morsels of new human creativity and originality to keep it satiated. Without limits, mediums are confusingly blended, mixed, and brutalized. Without limits, we get degenerate digital collages and ugly representations of our once fertile imaginations. Without limits, we get an infinite number of regurgitated poems with little message and no meaning. Without limits, we get unsatisfactory representations of the beautiful, stirring, physical world. Without limits, we indulge in quantity and forego quality. In these chatbots, we are attracted by the decadence of abundance. Like a medieval duke surveying a vast feast set dutifully before him, gallons of wine and mountains of meat stretching out on his long banquet table. Abundance as far as the eye can see. Made soft by the absence of struggle, Han's negativity, our Duke feasts until he can barely walk, ignobly falling asleep right there at the table, his servants silently clearing up around him. Much like our corpulent Duke, without the necessary imposition of limits, we are inclined to gorge on this abundant technology, our minds growing soft and our creativity blunted by our friendly artificial intelligence co-pilots. Conclusion. Flourishing in an age of artificial intelligence requires restrictions. We flourish when liberated by the boundaries of a frame. Imagination is unleashed by the negativity of a blank sheet of paper. Invention is born out of necessity. We flourish when the rules of the game are defined. It is only natural to be tempted by the abundance that artificial intelligence promises us, the quick wins and the creative hacks, the superficial understanding bouncing erratically from one topic to another. However, we tend to find joy in thoughtfully crafted constraint. Elite footballers are not worrying about gaining a better understanding of the conflict in the Middle East or trying to better understand the rise of Western populism when out on the pitch. Their focus is narrow, their objective is clear. Bounded by 90 minutes of time and the white touchlines of space, footballers are happily not burdened by anxiety, burnt out by the invocation to do more. To flourish, therefore, is to embrace limits, relieved by the admission that we cannot know, see, or do it all. Only then can we start getting on with the important matter of living.